Hey curl friends, welcome back to the Frizzandfrillzz channel. My name is Chloe, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of my curly tips and tutorials. Today we're gonna be talking about 5 reasons your curls are falling flat. I don't know if you guys can see over here. You see this big long thing right here? This is one of my plants, and I recently have become like a decent plant mom, even though I know she's kind of dry over there, but she's got 2 big leaves that are coming out and I'm really excited about it. When my plants grow new leaves, I get very, very excited. Are you that kind of person? Are you a plant mom that gets very excited about their leaves growing? If so, please tell me below so I'm not the only one. Thank you so much. And now, besides plants, because we're really not here for plants, we're here to talk about curls. So let's get started. Now, the 5 main reasons are kind of basically 5 categories. So let's just really quick talk about those 5 categories and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper. The first category is your cut. The second category, your products. The third, your brushing technique. Number 4, your styling technique. And number 5, your diffusing technique. Every single one of those has a huge part on whether your curls are falling flat at the roots and at the ends. Now that you know those 5 categories, let's dive into each of them a little bit deeper and figure out why one of these or multiple of them could be causing your curls to fall flat at the roots or at the ends. Number 1, the cut. Okay, now I have this question probably most often of why can I not get root volume? A huge piece of this, no matter how you style it, if your hair is way down on top, it's gonna have a significantly harder time gaining volume at the root. So when you go and get your hair cut, you can get a Diva Cut, you can get I think their Dad has one. There's multiple types of cuts that you can get, and you can do a quick Google search and figure out what's the best one for you and what's in your area, available for you depending on the stylists that are in your area. I personally get a Diva Cut. I love my girl Emily. If you are anywhere near the Madison area, I would highly recommend her. She's been my stylist for the past 5 years, and I don't know what I would do without her, but she does something called a round cut on me. And so what that means, she's cutting each individual curl dry, curl by curl, seeing where it naturally falls on my head, the way it naturally sits, and the way my curls naturally curl up. She's not straightening it, she's not doing it wet, because it's very hard to figure out how each of those curls are going to form by doing those types of techniques. So this is the best way I've found and the way she's found to work for curls. And so the round cut, what that's gonna do is she's cutting these pieces individually around my head so that it kind of forms a circle. We've allowed my layers at the bottom to go a little bit longer because I'm trying to grow out the length a little bit. So we've allowed that. So it's kind of almost now at this point a little bit more of an oval shape. And we try to keep the most of the volume at the top and on the sides. Now with that, I am due for a cut here, and you can see that these layers out here are kind of starting to hit that like Christmas tree. They're not so far gone because I still have some shortness up here so that these ones aren't falling all the way out here like they used to. I'll pop a picture up here of back in the day when I had barely any layers and I really had no idea what I was doing with my curls, and you can see they were just long and kind of like straightened out by the top of my head, which a lot of you guys discuss with me too, and kind of creating that lovely triangle Christmas tree effect is what I like to call it. And that's not ideal in my opinion, at least for my preference. Now, that's one thing. You can start getting shorter layers. That will help a ton. Also, another reason that your curls could be falling flat, you might be having issues with your ends. If your ends are having issues with curling up, that means those ends are probably pretty damaged. Whether it's from heat, sun, bleaching, coloring, overall just brushing it to no end and you got very frizzy split ends. All of those things can cause damage and cause those ends to, number 1, frizz up, and number 2, become very lax, okay? And so one thing you can do before, if you don't wanna get a cut right away, you can try a bonding treatment. One of my absolute favorites is from Curlsmith. amazing, okay? I'll pop it up here as well so you guys can see what that looks like, and I'll have everything that I discuss as well in the description below. But that could be something that you can try because that will help heal some of those bonds and bring them back together. So that's one thing you can try before a cut. Otherwise, honestly, you should probably just get your ends cut. Make sure you talk to your stylist, tell them if you don't want to lose too much of your length, you can tell them that and they can really try to focus in on those ends. But depending on how far up that damage is going, you might need to do kind of like a big chop in a way, just to be able to get your curls back to a healthy state if you've done a lot of bleaching, coloring, heat type damage. Now, the number 2 reason that your hair could be falling flat is due to your products. All right, there are normally about 2 reasons that your products could be causing this. Number 1, you're just using too much product, okay? Number 2, you could be using the wrong placement of product, right? You're putting too much by your roots, therefore weighing them down. So I always recommend adding your product at the ends. So add it at the end and then bring it up so that you're adding the least amount by your roots and the most amount at your ends, which normally are also what needs the most definition. And the other problem could be the actual products that you're using themselves, okay? So if you're using too heavy a product, normally something that's more oil-based, if you're using a product like that and you have a very fine texture or potentially maybe a wavy texture, you might need something that's more water-based or a lightweight product instead of something that's very heavy and an oil-based product. So any of those mixes could potentially be why you're having issues with weigh down. I do have a video that goes through a bunch of my favorite products and who those are best for. So I will link that up here and in the description in case you haven't seen that, and that can maybe give you a little bit of a jumping off point if you feel like you haven't found the right products for your specific curls. Now let's talk about the third potential issue, and that is your brushing technique. Now you wouldn't think that brushing has a lot to do with how your end game results go, but it can. So if you're brushing your hair from your scalp straight down, right? It's just brushing it straight down. All you're doing there is bringing all your curls down to your scalp and straightening them, right? And bringing them all the way down. Versus if we were to brush away from your scalp or upside down, you have a much higher likelihood of those curls drying away from your scalp, up and away, rather than straight down. So I highly recommend trying that with your brush. Now, if you're looking for a good brush, I highly recommend the Tangle Teaser brush. Popping that up here, it's amazing. I've been using that for about 1.5 years now, and I try new brushes all the time, and it's the one I continue to go back to time and time and time again. It's just the best, period. The number 4 potential issue could be your styling technique. And more than likely, your styling technique is going to be a huge culprit here. When you are trying to get more volume out of your curls, you really want to make sure that you're encouraging the curl. So again, back to the brushing, right? If you brush it, and you brush it down by your scalp, and then you just scrunch, how do we think these curls are going to turn out? Not so great, right? So we're gonna want to make sure that we're encouraging that curl throughout, especially up by your scalp and at your ends. I do have a full video of my go-to routine step by step on how exactly to do my finger coiling process, which is one way that you can encourage the curl. And I'm gonna pop that right up here and in the description for you guys. Another technique you can try is called finger rolling. That's where you take one of your curls and you literally go up like this when it's wet, and you bring it up and then you bring it right back down. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I have really finicky areas of my curls that don't like to curl as much as other areas, right? A lot of us have different curl patterns throughout our head, and it can cause some issues. If you want to try something that's a little bit different than finger coiling, you can try finger rolling. And again, that's that little process where you roll it back up, and that's going to encourage the curl even more versus finger coiling, where you're doing this and you're pulling it down a little bit away from your scalp. So you can try a a mix thereof and see what works better for you. And the last tip here for styling technique, you wanna try scrunching. If you're not scrunching yet, I highly recommend it. I love scrunching my curls. So anytime you're done with your styling, you always wanna go in and just scrunch all those curls and make sure that they're all getting the attention that they need. And if you did do finger coiling, this is gonna help make sure that anything that got brought down is gonna get brought back up. Again, that is all included in my main styling routine. So I'm going to provide that video in the description below so you can watch that after this video in case you haven't seen it yet. Now, the fifth reason your curls could be drying flat is because of your drying technique. Now, we all know, right, that there's air drying and then there's using a hair dryer. With the hair dryer, you can use a diffuser. Do not just use the hair dryer alone. You're gonna end up very frizzy. Now, with the diffuser, I much prefer this method, okay, over air drying. Air drying, if you got thick hair, you got long hair, is gonna take an eternity for you to dry that hair. I am not here for sitting like a wet dog for the next 5 hours of my life. No, thank you. It also is going to provide a lot less volume, potentially more frizz, depending on the weather. If it is rainy or humid, good luck. Your best option is diffusing if you want something quick and you want to have more control in how your curls are going to dry. Now, my favorite diffuser that I've been using for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years now, is the Dyson diffuser. It is my holy grail. It is incredible. I highly recommend it if you have long dry times, okay? If you do not have long dry times, you might not need to spend that much on a dryer, but it is the best thing on the market currently that I have found to really cut down dry time. Now, when you are diffusing, it's really important that you do a few specific things during that diffusing process. If you are looking for more volume and more shrinkage, I want you not to hover, okay? Hovering can be great, but it is not going to give you a lot of volume. It's basically, in a sense, doing a sped up version of air drying. And to me, that just is kind of counterintuitive. It's just not what I like to do. So when you are doing this, I'm gonna show you a video clip here. You wanna start at the end, and you're gonna go up with that diffuser and you're gonna hold it there for about 5 to 10 seconds and then you'll move to another spot, okay? You're gonna use this on low to no heat, and then you're gonna also use this on medium to high airflow, all right? This is gonna give you the fastest results and the most defined results simultaneously. All right, then one of the things you also wanna do is you wanna pay attention to the root. So what I recommend doing is making sure that you flip back and forth during that diffusing process so that you get nice and even flow, and to make sure that your hair doesn't dry in one stagnant spot. When your hair, say I parted my hair this way, like I normally do, and if I just kept it right here, right, and I just did this when I was diffusing, I'm probably not gonna have the best volume. Instead, if I go upside down, and then I flip to this side, and then I flip to this side, maybe every 3 to 5 minutes during my diffusing process, I'm gonna then add in so much more extra root volume naturally through that diffusing process so that I don't have to go in as heavily with, say, a volumizing powder or a pick in order to get that volume. Those things are amazing, and I highly recommend trying out a pick or a volumizing spray. Highly recommend those, but we're not really talking about those because those to me are more additives. We're talking today about how we can get the most volume during that styling process. Now, I do also have an older video that talks about 10 tips for the diffusing process. It's actually with one of my old dryers, but it still holds true to a lot of the things that I do today. So I'm also gonna provide that video here and below as well for you guys in case you'd like to dive into that a little bit deeper. You guys grab your glass of wine, your cup of tea, that's what I have here today. You know, grab something like that, pop me up on your big screen and watch through some of these videos to really give you a full idea. Grab your notebook, whatever you gotta do to make sure that you take it all in. That's gonna help you really make sure that during your next wash day that you're gonna do the most that you can to get the max amount of volume, all right? And guys, that is today's video. I hope these 5 main tips gave you a really good understanding of how you can add in as much volume to your curls as possible. And again, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of my curly tutorials and tips. And make sure you hit that like button so other curlies get to see these videos as well. Until next time, guys, I'll see you then. Bye.